Is Louis Riddick there, Todd?
Sure
Okay.
is.
Louis Riddick, ESPN NFL college football analyst. He's been busy. He's been at USC, LSU, North Carolina Pro Days over the past 2 weeks. He's going to be part of ESPN's draft coverage from Detroit. That'll be in a couple of weeks. And Louis joins us now. Give me the player who changed your mind the most so far in these pro days.
Well, who changed my mind the most, or probably who I felt, wow. As a player, I mean, as a person, the guy who I kind of like really liked, and I had no real exposure to him beforehand. You hear different things, you read different things, but I came away with really liking was Caleb Williams. When I talked to him out at SC, he's very committed to the craft. He's got a great group of people that he's working with right now in terms of arm health, improving his throwing mechanics. A guy who wants to be great. He really does break down his game to the minute detail. And I really liked his professionalism rather and like the way in which he's trying to take his game to another level.
But why have people kind of had a smear campaign against him?
I have no idea. It's ridiculous, to be quite honest. It's once things kind of get going, Dan, they just kind of take on a life of their own. And I went in there, quite honestly, very neutral on who he was as a person and came away very impressed and rooting for the kid. I mean, because he's a fantastic talent. I think the guy who surprised me in terms of just how much raw power he really does have is Drake May. I mean, the ball, it is an absolute rocket launcher now. I mean, that ball is cutting through the air with like a ferocity when he throws it. And now he has to harness all that. He has to make sure that he's able to repeat the good stuff and eliminate the bad stuff. And he understands that. And he knows that he's going to continue to work at that. But he had some throws that just made your jaw drop. I think the guy who I was so impressed with on tape and it just kind of really confirmed what I saw on tape, what I had heard about him before, because I have some people who know Jaden Daniels. And I think interviewing him, talking to him on TV, watching him interact with Malik Neighbors, Brian Thomas Jr., and talking to Coach Kelly I just came away going, yep, that's the guy for me.
But how close is 1 and 2? How close is Caleb Williams and Jaden Daniels?
It's super close. It's really about a matter of preference. It's almost going to come down to almost what everything comes down to in the NFL when you have guys who are this closely matched, although they're much different players and much different body types. It's just going to come down to personal preference. Like literally, if when you're interviewing them and you're talking to them and they're looking you in the face and you're kind of going through personal stuff, football stuff, them giving you background on them, you giving them background on you, whether or not you just feel like, okay, you know what? This is my guy. It's really what it's going to come down to, because I could pick apart all three of these guys and make you hate all three. Or I could find enough stuff where you're going, all three of these guys are going to be Hall of Famers. That's what's so cool about this draft and what makes it so intriguing at the same time.
I like Michael Penix Jr. I like somebody who went to a program that wasn't a good program in Indiana. He's come back from 2 knee surgeries. He runs a 4.4 40 or 4.5 40, and he seems to have great accuracy. And there's something to be said for a guy that is that resilient coming back, and what he did at Washington. I don't know what the pros, what the scouts look at and see or don't see, but I love his story.
Yeah, it is one of resilience, fortitude, stick-to-itiveness, whatever you want to call it. And it is one where he clearly makes people around him better. People respect him. They respect his commitment to the craft. And then he really did shock some people with his overall level of athleticism, because on the football field, in terms of his functional movement while playing the position, it doesn't come off the same way the testing numbers do.
But how do you run a 4.4 and you rush for a couple of 100 yards in your career?
Yeah, because again, time, speed, measured vertical explosion, measured vertical and horizontal explosion when the broad jump. Like, there are guys who are great testers, guys who can test much better, or rather in a different way, than which they apply it when they're actually playing the game. And Michael just doesn't use all those things. You don't see those things kind of jump off the tape the same way it jumps off the tape with you, with Jaden and with Caleb. It really does.
We're talking to Louis Riddick of the Mothership. He went to USC, LSU, North Carolina pro days. And then you got Bo Nix as well. Sometimes a quarterback can stay too long in college.
Mm-hmm.
Like Sam Darnold, it felt like, and Matt Leinart, it felt like they stayed too long. And maybe we've seen everything we can see. You know, Bo Nix changed his schools, and I thought he had an unbelievable year, but I don't know. Maybe he's a guy who falls, to Denver or maybe a little bit later. Like the Rams feel like they could be waiting to grab a quarterback here if Michael Penix fell to them. Like that's what I kind of feel with these two quarterbacks. What do you think of Bo Nix?
Yeah, I like him a lot. He was very impressive down at the Senior Bowl. I think what you're kind of alluding to is this, like scouts, GMs, presidents, owners, fans get enamored with upside, get enamored with what could be, as opposed to they almost get down on what they think already is the ultimate upside of a player. And I think in Bo Nix, people think, well, what we see is what we're going to get. And that's just not good enough for me. There's not enough intrigue. There's not enough excitement. He doesn't really, he doesn't blow my doors off and make me feel as though he's a guy who I want to be my franchise quarterback. But once we get to the NFL and we see guys playing for our teams as fans, what we then crave is, I just want to know what he's going to give me from week to week. I just want him to be consistent. I don't care about how strong his are. I just want him to not throw interceptions. I want him to make good decisions. I want him to not be the reason why we lose games. Well, doesn't that sound like Bo Nix could be that guy?
Well, J.J. McCarthy, it feels like we think like, oh my gosh, what could he be? And the fact that he's rising, it's based off of piquing the interest of people of, gosh, he's a winner. And Harbaugh said, okay, what about this, Louis? This is what I would say. Go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, but I would say this about JJ. Even though there isn't a vast number of plays where he demonstrated the ability to make NFL caliber throws over and over and over again, and that this program wasn't built around him to where you kind of feel a little bit more secure in your evaluation in terms of his ability to be a program leader, there is enough there to where you go, okay, he's demonstrated it. And he's demonstrated it in a big-time conference at a big-time program against big-time competition. And I feel as though if I can put that same enough of a structure around him to where he's protected, we have a strong run game, we have a good defense, and I'm a good coach, that I can get that same, I can extrapolate that out to 17 games for 10 years or whatever it is that, you project quarterbacks to play. And therefore, I'm comfortable taking him where he's now being talked about going, which is as high as 5. And look, if I strung together J.J. McCarthy's best throws this year, you could stack them right up with any quarterback in this draft. I mean, he throws some absolute lasers in like a 1 foot by 1 foot box, but he just doesn't do it all the time because it was the Blake Corum show. It was that offensive line show. It was heavy personnel, Big Ten, smash mouth, November, December football type of program. And see, again, that's why I think ultimately for all these guys give you something a little bit different. All these guys give you a little bit, a certain level of comfort based on what they've done and what you think they can be, which ultimately leads me to this. And it always comes back to this. We spend so much time trying to split hairs with these guys and trying to project. How are they going to be? Who's going to be the best pro? Who's going to be in? We better be spending as much time as possible thinking about exactly what every team that is going to draft these guys has to offer and how it is structured and how it's implemented and how it's given to these guys and presented to these guys. And that's why every single guy that I talked to this week, over the past week, I asked them, as much as what these teams are asking you, I want to know what is important to you. What do you need to be good? Because that's even more critical. You have to have in your mind, this is exactly what I need as well. And you need to communicate that to these teams. This is what I need. Like, this is what helps me because you're the franchise, man. They're drafting you guys in the top 5. You better be willing to tell them that doesn't work for me. Can you help me like this? Can you communicate with me like this? can you get me players like this? Because if you don't, and you just kind of take what every team just gives you, teams have already shown they'll screw you up, man.
Well, that's why if you look like whatever quarterback goes to New England, you got a long road ahead of you. But if I fall to the Rams or I fall to Seattle or I fall to Denver, I might have a better chance at more sustained success than some of these guys up at the top, because the draft is littered with guys up top going to bad teams, and there's a reason why they're bad teams.
Yeah, there's no question about. Look, teams spend I don't know how much money using private jets, outside third-party research firms to kind of really dive into the makeup of these players, employing scouts who are traveling all over the country, just accumulating data on all these guys. So they spend a lot of money trying to make sure that they can find out everything they can about these players. I would be having a whole lot of meetings internally about our own organizations right now, about from the time we turn in the card and we fly these young men in here, as soon as they hit the ground and walk through the doors in our building, everything has to be geared towards this young man's success. And we have to go over this again and again and again and invest as much as we can into our own infrastructure. Because it's so damn critical. Like, I've seen guys just get blown out of the NFL because they weren't handled, coached, corrected, nurtured, advised the right way. It was almost like as if they were just thrown to the wolves, man. I've seen it firsthand. And I've also seen it to where, like with Andy Reid, I just never forget how he handled Michael when he came to Philadelphia, Vic. And it was just like, it was the blueprint. And it's the same thing he did for Alex Smith, the same thing he did for Patrick Mahomes. It's not a secret. The same thing he did for Donovan. It's not a secret, but some dudes understand it. Some organizations have no clue.
I'm going to make you the GM of the Patriots. You're on the clock at 3. Caleb just went. Jaden Daniels just went. What are you doing?
I'm waiting. I'm sitting, and if I'm Elliot Wolf or whoever's taking the call, Gerard Mayo, Mr. Kraft himself, I'm waiting to see if my phone rings. I really am, because I know that I need resources to build. And at the same time, I'm assessing, okay, how far down, what can I get if someone wants to pick? How far do I have to move back? How many resources, how many resources can I accumulate? And can I kill two birds with one stone, so to speak? Can I get enough resources to kind of continue to build out this football team and maybe still get one of these quarterbacks that I still feel as though with the right structure around him, he can become the next franchise quarterback.
Okay, but let's say 20 seconds to go, nobody's calling you, and you're getting ready to put in the card. 19, 18,
I'm taking
17,
one of the quarterbacks.
16, 15.
I'm taking one of the quarterbacks.
You can't say one of the quarterbacks on your card.
Okay, which one am I taking?
Yeah.
So if I'm at 3, who am I taking?
13,
after what
12, 11, 10,
after what I saw yesterday,
9,
I'm taking Drake.
8. Okay.
I'm taking Drake after what I saw yesterday.
And the pick is in, and the New England Patriots select Drake May, North Carolina.
Yep.
How do you feel about that pick?
I'm good.
Okay.
And honestly, I'm good. And you know what I'm also doing? I'm not throwing him to the wolves. I am going to continue to build, because look, from there, I'm already turning the page and I'm moving on. How can I build this thing out to support that young man?
They can't start him. You can't start him.
No,
right?
I'm not going to.
Okay.
I'm not going to.
But does Jaden Daniels start in Washington?
Yeah, he probably does.
And Caleb starts with the Bears.
Oh, there's no question.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Hey, we'll be talking. I know the draft's coming up in a few weeks. Always great to catch up with you. Thank you, Louis.
Of course, man. You bet.
That's Louis Riddick of the Mothership. He'll be taking part in the draft. What are we, 4 weeks away yesterday from the draft? Yes, Paul?
I love having Louis Riddick on because you always put him kind of in a corner.
I do.
And he always gets a very, like, oh, geez. Oh, he's like squirming. And he knows it's kind of coming.
Yeah.
He loves it, though.